Well, hello there, everyone. Welcome back. For the Gold Monument 10, you talk about right here is like I talk about from the previous to talk about your job that market keeps us going, and especially if it's going to be what's called related to like the Department of Treasury, and as well as like for anything about taxes as well. But then this talks about right here of like talk about source of information. And I know like with anything, I like if it's going to be what you call related to like any jobs or anything like that, for anything that keeps us going, especially. But you see right here that this right here would be most of us can you can know is like you're watching you from the previous to talk about here right here whenever I was young, and then this right here would be like say Statue of Liberty, knowing about like jobs radar for the gold monument, and this picture right here, I was also thinking about if I want to use this maybe as an example, like what you call is like for anything that related to like what you call a war reports or maybe a dollar, it's like any type of dollar signs or anything like that. But anything based on information, information that is provided, and so like for like information that is provided, and then you have right here is like talk about email as well as with the buildings and stuff, as well as for state company, as well as celebrate safely, and then this right here talks about the fun and games, and as well like for problems and puzzles. It's like with the toys, and then this right here talks about it's like for postpaid, for package delivery. It's like for twice as much work, and it's like for language arts, and so forth. For great progress. And then right here talks about it's like for the language arts, it's like careers. It can be arranged, from hobbies. We can make it such as there's such thing, and it's like for updates, and then have right here is like talking about for like anything that's it's like for the gold monument, just right here, like say like a building right here, and with this type of building though that anybody that may warrant or that that the way I would do this right here, if it's supposed to be what you call like a job site. So have right here is an example right here for like for 10,000 up to 10,000 or so jobs that could be located right here in this building. So this right here kind of reminds me of to where that anything about Gold Monument and anybody like Warren to where whenever you're looking at a birthday cake, do you necessarily see a lot of this stuff here that is related to like work, work that more likely that you would be in charge of taking care of, especially for keeping the database updated as well as any source of information. And one of the jobs that we more likely, and I know like with anybody, whenever you start a job and then go to school at the same time, a lot of times that whenever you do get a job, that you would see a lot of the paperwork. But then on your hand too, if any kids wanted to wear that, what about chores around the house? Chores around the house, I don't think would be applicable, but on your would be applied. But let's just say that for any time, if anybody were to probably say that if you're going to have kids or so, but any type of side jobs, anything that more likely is toward that they may think is toward if you're going to be getting paid an allowance, and with this allowance, it could be about maybe between up to about maybe 15% more, on your check, maybe about every 3 weeks or so. So think about as to where anybody that may warrant to where that they're going to be blowing out the birthday candles on the birthday cake and knowing about exactly about what they wish for, especially. And one of those things could have been maybe a skateboard or a television set or something like that. But sometimes you're like warrant to where maybe a toy that's going to keep you busy, huh? A toy that's going to help you improve what you call your education to where help you understand about the meaning about it's like for anything about what you call the Americans. It's like for jobs and as well as for any type of duties as well. And one of those duties would be is to where that for any information that is collected, and the information that's that is collected as well. But you have right here is a building right here, and like that this right here like a gold monument type building right here. It's like for jobs radar, and then go to the next page right here, and then this right here basically shows right here it's like a form to where it talks about for like cash dollar earnings. So basically that any information from the school and as well as from the company, especially the any forms, if you're using any type of a programs such as what you call like a HR block or maybe TurboTax or any other tax program, or so that you're like warrant toward anything that more likely that's done online or anything by paperwork, especially packets of paperwork. And I got plenty of packets of paperwork, even from financial aid especially. But you're like Warren toward it, yeah, that a lot of the stuff right here it's basically calculated about that this information that's likely going to be collected from the school and as well as for other offices around the country. So when we look at this and thinking necessarily to where that when we do think about is to where that on especially on our birthday, that's what you call is like our special day, especially on the birthday cake, and you're like wanting to where a time where you have fun with your friends and as well as have games and other sorts of events. Like you can maybe what you call being enjoying. You would say the favorite recipe of ice cream or delicious what you call any type of pies or anything like that, or any other type of snacks or dessert, events or anything like that. Like or if it's what you call it, doing any other type of fun activities. And but one of those would be like anybody likely say is to where that this right here, it's not really considered like too much of a fun activity because of the fact about, yeah, that on your hand, that with this right here, that with this activity right here, if it's anything to do with what you call budgeting, like with anything about what you call counting as well as anything else, but you have right here, I'll go ahead and include right here these dollar signs. But I'll go ahead and I'm sure if most of us can remember a few of our times tables, and I can go ahead and use right here for 100,000. 500. I'll go ahead and put right there for 1,000. 500, and then on the other hand, that you're like wanting to where that anything that's related to like for. So you go ahead and write that right there, and then go ahead and duplicate a copy of that right there on the bottom. So thinking about is to where that whenever we are going to be writing the answers to some of those right there, and you're like Warren to where if anybody warrants us to where yeah, go ahead and like I said, create a layout for that right there. To make it a little bit bigger. It's usually how I wear for like any type of say warnings right there, but there you have it, talking about with like any type of cash dollar earnings, especially if it's going to be for 100,500. And I don't know, unless if you're like what you call anybody probably say, yeah, maybe for the millionaires or for the billionaires, but you're all thinking about is toward anybody that may think that if you're thinking about get something like that, maybe for a birthday present. Anybody like may want toward yeah, that you might be crazy. I mean, you must be crazy because you're gonna get paid that much. But on the other hand, I talk about for our future of our education, is about the future though. Is that thinking about is to where that it's possible that we may have been charged a little bit too much from time to time, from the time that maybe we were working or we were going to school or some sort, or there may be something that maybe I'm sure the Department of Treasury could be doing maybe by the year 2018 that they're going to have it to where if there's a time to where that I don't know if you want to call it like a settlement, but for our taxes that they seen that you didn't make enough or you didn't make that much, and so that they go ahead and do the mathematical additions, subtractions from there. But I can remember a lot of the math classes I did have since I was in the 8th grade that I could, I tell anybody here that had quite a bit, using a calculator. But I could probably say that with this right here, this example right here between what you call, this right here would be page 7, but between all this right here, that anybody like wanted to where that, yeah, if this was maybe a job, if you were actually getting credited or you're getting paid to do a number of these things, and I know that this right here could be a job that more likely that could satisfy at least about maybe up to 25 people per day or something like that. If you're going to be helping about maybe 25 people or so, maybe during the week you're going to be helping about maybe 25 people or so that they need help, understanding their tax information or so, or something that needs to be done on the computer. So anything related to like the tax offices. And anybody like Warren, or that, yeah, that especially around my birthday, tax time likely will be over with by at least by next year, and then it starts up again. So anybody that they think about is to where that yeah that if you do very well, then more likely somebody else would ask you to help them out with their tax information, and sometimes you're like, well, I'm like, well, really, but still, thinking about is to where that the way I do, I can maybe tell anybody here the way I do my mathematical type count right here is like saying some of it what I kind of learned just by my own time. I didn't what you call 'em, I never really had like I never worked for a company that where they do that. It's like this professional. It's like certain calculations. And if anybody were to ask me, like for like any type of estimate, it's like for what there is to where that if we're going to be doing any type of cash dollar accountants, it's like any information that more likely that anybody was like would be collecting, especially from you or anybody else, that you're like wanting toward that information whenever you file your taxes. A lot of the information that is gathered. It's like we say that a lot of this information, of course, that I just put on here just for example. But whenever we file our taxes, that one thing to understand too is to where that make sure that all the information is correct, and like the best is like is best your knowledge as well, and for any other information that is collected. So whenever we think about this right here, especially for starting a job, and with this information right here is like that it says what you call it about the same thing, but whenever we work our taxes, one thing to think about is to making sure that we review all the work especially. But they got all those rules and stuff and policies especially, but on the other hand, they make sure as to where whenever you're going to be filing your taxes, this is not what you call fun and games. And if anything, it's after you get your taxes done, they can maybe quiz you on something, you say for fun and games, but like puzzles, and I know that if anybody were warned, where if that's very education, they have it to where you can play a game after you get your taxes done, after you get your homework done, and there's like a little game that you can play especially. But what that game would be is where like that if you're going to be signing on, maybe to play a game of what you call something like you say crossword, the crossword mannequin or something like that, crossword mannequin, and thinking that you're going to be on there trying to solve a number of puzzles and try to think about how do you say United States backwards, or something such as match up the word cross as for mannequin or something like that. Mannequin. Anybody say, well, where's this idea for about mannequin? But on there, besides my name, anybody like say that MATT and think about it, there's going to be like a type of game such as for crossword, and give it like a nickname. The crossword medical or something like that. Medical or McCarthy or something like that. Crossword McCarthy, and thinking that you're going to be playing the game, and then whenever you get signed on, and they're like, say, please create an ID to identify yourself for who you are, and then you place for security questions as well, anything for extra security as well. But this right here would have been a picture right here whenever I was on a swing. Actually, this picture right here was taken whenever I was on a swing, so that I try to think about this as like what you call like a fun activity. And I know, like with anybody, that especially if it's going to be like, say, like a project like the gold monument are talking about, that I know with finances that sometimes if you're talking about a lot of paperwork, I was going through a lot of paperwork today. It's a lot of paperwork that can contain more than 50 or so forms of papers, and files of papers, and you're like warranted or that some of them that were not even all in the right spot. Some of them were just what you call unorganized. So it seems like it's like an every week or like about every other day job to where you go through your files and making sure that everything's all in the correct spot, everything's updated. So whenever we think about this, it's like for Gold Monument 10, that this right here would more likely be what you call considered a job, and a job that we all would have had since we start paying our taxes especially. But the information that is collected, of course, would be what you call it was collected, especially updated from what you call from the school, and as well from the job, especially if you're going to be getting a job, and any information that you get in the mail, especially that it would have been located in this building right here. So if anybody would say that by the time you do get a job, then you may go say is like they may call that to where you're going to go ahead and take off with the circus. take off with the circus to where you're going to go ahead and say that, you'll go ahead and take care of your taxes later on, but you'll go ahead and spend more time at work. So whenever you do get a job, working about maybe 10 or 12 hours or so, maybe a day or some sort, and you may, it may happen as to where you may get, you may lose track of time and knowing about that anything that needs to be changed on your taxes, especially. So if anybody like we wanted to, or by the time you do get a job, and then think about as to anything that that needs to be changed, especially on the birthday present. But you have right here, I went ahead and drew this right here. This was right here was me working a job and thinking about it. So if you're going to be helping about maybe 25 people, and you're like thinking about it to where that you about talking say the gold monument. Yeah, the gold monument. It's not really considered a birthday candle. It's basically it's considered like say like something that's on the birthday cake. I'm like there's something that's on the birthday cake, but then it's supposed to represent is to where the job. The job is like say that keeps us busy for what we do, like for whenever we grow up and thinking about is to where whenever you turn the age of 32 or maybe 40 and you're turning your 40s, and like with anybody that may warrant toward it, they'll probably be waiting for their retirement check to come in. But with me though, that what am I waiting for? I'm actually waiting for a higher education to come in, and then think about as to where anything that shows great progress after that. But on the other hand, that based on the amount of income that we collect, and I know like with any source of information, that basically it's collected from the taxes, and especially for anybody, if you're going to have a birthday between the months of April and maybe October or so of a year, and thinking about as to where that when did you start the job? Well, actually I started about it was 5 weeks before my birthday. So let's just say that if the gold monument could also mean as to where whenever you start working for a company or business and thinking about that would come that could maybe come maybe 18 weeks or maybe 5 months before your birthday. But thinking about as to where anything that marks our birthday, huh? By the time we grow up and thinking about is to where that you're doing the math right here, and anybody like say that about how much is 100,000 into two, and you're like like well, I am not an expert. Like hey, I'm not an expert either. Do you have a point or what? Like well. The point I'm getting to is to where that for I guess we could probably say is to where anybody like say that while you're working on something and they ask you a question about how much would that be after you take a certain amount out, or after you add some additional budgets amounts in, like if you add about maybe $25 more, and you're like Warren to where that well I can go ahead and take a guess for you, but still that these digits right here would more likely mean is to where this seems like a lot of money to a lot of us, especially if we're going to be making less than 40,000 a year. This seems like a lot of money to all of us. But let's just say that in 4 or 5 years or so from now into the future, that they likely say is to where they may start seeing a little bit more money come that we start making. And I know like with anybody, kids that whenever they start making more money, they're gonna go out and have fun with it. They're gonna likely say is to where that like treat like what you call like the party, like go to a party, but still that with the amount you may start seeing more money come into your pocketbook. But on your hand, that you're likely weren't toward this more money that more likely says to where that you're likely weren't to when do you think that you would start seeing reading zero, and that may apply to us if it's like for any taxes that were deducted especially. And so that's just the thing though, is to where like you have right here for none or NA, and I know that a lot of times that shows up on the tax forms especially. So ever since I was about 16 and a half, I start seeing some of these forms, and I know it took me a little bit while to explain it all, but basically that for like the tax information, they say is to where that they go by. It's like a little bit backwards, as to where that the things the amounts of income that you were charged from that previous year, and then now it's like doing the calculations about how much money that the stuff that's already owed with, and then now I guess you say that if anybody like wanted to, or if you were to be working at any type of tax office and try to explain to anybody that stuff that's already happened, been thinking about that's now that the information that is being recorded for that following year, that if there's any changes or any updates, especially that needs to be updated in the profiles and in the database and in the systems. And they likely say is to where that a lot of this information is coming from, come from me. Like, yeah, a lot of my information are more likely is to where that, that's basically, that they say that's pretty much your responsibility, to make sure that that information is correct, and then they'll let you know if there's anything else that they need to collect as well. But and I don't know, I keep thinking, if anybody were wanting to, or looking at this picture right here and thinking about it, to where, yeah, that look like right there, you can maybe look like one of the presidents, maybe on a $20 bill or something like that. But on the other hand, like say with that light, blonde hair, like with the sun, sun shining on or something like that. So anybody like wanting to, or that, yeah, if you could make any type of play money, play any type of game with play money, and you're like thinking about is to where this right here, I guess would be I would probably say it's $4. If I could say that if I could have a bill, a dollar bill with my little kiddo's face on it, just like saying is to where that this is where I learned, I would probably say it would probably contain for amount of $4. So if anybody were warned to where that, yeah, for like $4, you go ahead and write that right there. And thinking about it, it's like, yeah, for $4 right there. For $4. So if anybody were warned to where, yeah, okay, for $4, I can, yep. That really, believe it or not, I don't think there is any such thing as what you call a $4 bill. So you're like, warned to where, why not? How come? Why don't they make them, even though that yeah, that it's less, it's cheaper than the $5 bill, but still, if I can use it as an example right there of like say for $4 bill, and I have right there is my little kiddo's face on there, and like wanting to where that, yeah, information that is collected especially. So think about it's like for Gold Monument. The Gold Monument basically means I have right here, it's like for digital design, as well as the state company, as well as for Celebrate Safely, and then as well as we say for fun and games. Have right there's a picture right there, me and problems and puzzles, along with rules, and as long as mobile use, and as well as like with the birthday candle right there. And then you have right here is for jobs and little brother, as well as here for great progress. So if anybody wants is toward that, yeah, that if you were what you call one of the younger boys, say in the one of the younger boys that you were raised by, as well as that for anything else that job careers or anything like that you do get, and you're like wanting to wear that far, how well that you were able to pronounce your language of study. And think I say for the careers, something that can be arranged by hobby reasons. We can think there is no such thing to where that yeah, that you may figure all this out on your own, but then thinking about is to where help other people understand about the type of language. And whenever you look back and back of a gold coin and think about as to any type of language that more likely we may see on there, and one of those could be included, like which says like maybe the Capitol or maybe a certain government building or some sort. But this building right here is like for the Gold Monument. And thinking necessarily to where you do the calculations right here, and like mentioned from the other one is talk about for gift cards especially. So if anybody were wanted to where like, yeah, especially like gift cards, like in the new source of technology for how they use the gift cards, as well as for satellite images as well. But you see right here is that with these calculations and these math calculations right here, and you're like wanting to where that really that if you were to be seen like that, something like that, is to where you start working a job and then you start making a little bit more money, and thinking about it is to where yeah, Gold Monument. And by next year, that more likely you'll go ahead and look back and see is to where that there's been, which says like a lower salary, like for a lower, yeah, the cost of a few things may have gone down, but then it's like say is to where that, yeah, what does that usually mean whenever it goes back up, goes down, goes back up, goes back down, goes back up, so it compounds. So you're like wanting to where, well, why don't they just make up their mind about how much is it? But on the other hand, if anybody were warned toward it, yeah, that for any paintings especially, and if anybody warns us toward it, yeah, if you're going to be doing any more, say the Gold Monument 11 and 12, and maybe if I want to go ahead and maybe include a painting, but To tell you what, be honest with anybody here, is that really that I've been real busy with what I've been doing, and but then you can also look at my portfolio work on, especially on Behance, and look at that work especially. But I also include, like, say, a project explaining a little bit about my gold monument work especially. But happy learning, everyone, and good luck with everybody about for like for anything about it's like for knowing about understanding about the source of information that's collected about jobs especially, and thinking about like keep thinking about it to anybody that say that yeah, if you ever know about it, it's like you have right here's a building, and I know like with anybody, if you're going to be walking into a building and then you're thinking about necessarily to her with any building that you do walk into, and you're thinking necessarily to her that yeah that it may take you maybe a full year to find yourself to find your way around the building if it's going to contain about maybe up to 53 or so stories high, and thinking that you have right here is like an underground, it's like a location underground. So this building right here, along with a few other buildings, from how our information, the information that is collected about, from anything based on, say, for jobs as well as for schooling, education, is like so knowing about. It's like really that whenever your birthday comes per year, they may think about you for security purposes. And know it's like, yeah, from the time whenever your birthday comes by the year 2020, and just thinking about as to where that there's going to be what you call like an increase or so. But on your hand, that this right here is talking about, say, for something to be able to keep the work going. And people may say is to where please try not to think about too much about how much is in the pocketbook if you do run into those situations to where that you run pretty tight on a budget. You to also think about as to where the things that you are capable of doing, from what you learned, and then knowing about for what you're capable, what you have access to, and then how you're able to improve it, especially. But anyway, but talk about there for 10,000. This also say for 10,000 jobs as well as for $10,000, a $10,000 bill, and anybody that may want to where you never seen it before, but maybe later on in the future I might see something like that, and you're like wanting to where that reminds you a lot of times about maybe being at the casino, maybe at the gambling, being at the casino doing gambling, and you're likely weren't, or if you're going to be playing a game, playing a card game or something, and you may think that you may win that amount of money or something like that. But anyway, like you pay you in cash, or especially, or but if anything, but on the other hand, I talk about say for the gold monument right here, and then talk about say for the language, especially understanding about the word of the language, especially for emails. And I know with anybody that especially if they're going to have about maybe 3 emails, that I can remember during this time that whenever I didn't really know what really email was, but even on the phone, even on the mobile phone, that think about as to what all I learned, especially working the emails, especially. You may got an email maybe for like just for interesting training purposes, but then they may say as to where if you're going to begin a career doing that type of stuff, and more likely that they may say is that with that email that you could be getting emails from other people, other clients, other job sources, any information that they're more likely that they may collect. So just think about as to whether the way that you use the email especially. And I don't know anybody like say especially for internet security, for like any type of antivirus protection software, and you're like Warren to where nowadays it seems like that they even offer it with a mobile device. So you're like Warren to where how can you download a virus? How can you? Why do you have to worry about too much about the security settings, especially if you're talking about on your smartphone and tablet? But anybody likely weren't to where well, what do you mean? I'm like that. I'm sure that there's something that they say that there could be like doing a risk by, but on the other hand, that like for any type of mobile security, they could probably say is to where you may not have to remember everything, but on the other hand, that if you're going to be getting any text messaging about anything, asking for anything that that more likely it's supposed to be kept confidential. It's not supposed to be provided by anybody else unless they have to show that they actually work for that company. That they say make sure be sure, stay, be cautious and knowing about any information that you do provide. So that's basically that it's like knowing about that right there. I talk about say for the gold monument right here, and you're likely wondering to where The gold monument is to where that, well, we want to where, yeah, we all may make mistakes on your hand, but then on your hand too is making sure that our information is safe and secure, and as well as knowing about the types of jobs. It's like this right here could also be what you call a chore. This chore may pay about, on average, about maybe $4 every 3 months. And you're like Warren, to where that we may not see any kind of pay for this type of job right here right away. But then with that that job, that more likely they say that could make a difference later on by next year. And you're like Warren, to where $4, $4, and you may raise about maybe $4 more times what you call times the 18. Out of what you call for what you made, just to know it. It's like for any source of information based on what you call like the gold monument. But other than that, like, thanks for watching. The gold monument 10 is like I say, if I multiply by 10 times 10, for 10,000. Other than that, I talk about if anybody wants to, or about what age, did you learn how to use, how to learn your basics about your times tables, huh? I would say that I was at least, 5, I was at least 10, about 12, 14 years old, something like that. But anyway, I was pretty young. Just think about it, for how I figure it out. And anybody wanted to, or if you can't memorize everything, you really just do the best you can. But other than that, making sure that all the information that we do provide is best and correct as best we know. But other than that, the best of our knowledge, as well as happy learning. Manning 25. Say for Matthew McGuire, like for United States Treasury, for United States, America, and it's like talk about say for happy tax filing and for Gold Monument 10. Thanks for watching, Manning 25.